Hi everyone, so in this video I'm going to talk about how the Scorekeeper program can be modified to give the ability to save the scores to a file. Now, take a look at this code. So this code has the main function, but it also has the get command, get index, show scores, and the load points file that I showed you in a previous video to load scores from an existing file by opening a file in read mode and getting the lines from that file. So what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to have a way to save the information from a file. So for example, say a game is going on, keeping track of scores, and then halftime rolls around, and for some reason you stop the code or the program crashes or something, and you want to be able to reload that information back into so you can use this program for the second half. So what we need to be able to do is we need to implement a function for saving the points file. So this is a function that we should call some point in the main function. One place that we could call it is at the exit location, but we also could call this in other places. We could even have a save command that we add to call this function to get it to save the scoring information. So how should we implement this function? Well, basically what it needs to do is we need to be able to pass it the player and points information, and it needs to be able to save content to that file in the same kind of format that the load function needs to be able to load things in. So try to remember what that format is. I may have an example. Yeah, there we go. So the format that the save file saves, the format that the load file loads things in with is that kind of format there, where you have player name, points, and so on for each player that scored in that game. Now, the save points file needs to be able to kind of do the flip of what that file did, is take information from the lists, open a file, and write the information to that file to save it, to save it for being able to be used later, and then close the file, of course. So, what do you think would be a good implementation for this? How should we go about implementing this code? So, let's think about this. What we would want to do is we would want to first, well, it depends on how we want to implement it. One way to do it would be in this function to ask the user for the name of a file to save to, or we could have it saved to a default location, but for now we will ask the user for a name, and we'll open up that file in write mode. Now, we need to do some stuff in here to actually go through and save that information, but we know that at some point we're going to want to close the file once we're done with it, so we may as well get close in there. So now, what do we have to do in between, basically, to actually get player name points written to the file? Well, basically, one way to do that is with the for loop, right? So we can iterate over, basically, the indexes of every player, regardless of how many we have. And what we would do is we would call file.write, and we want to have the player name at that index plus a space, and then the points for that player. And we want to make sure we convert it to a string, because we're using string concatenation to put these strings together. And then, of course, in order for these to be showing up on separate lines, we want to make sure we have a new line written. So we could have just put the new line there, but we can also just write it in a separate call to the write function so that each of these players shows up on a separate line. And then once that loop is done, we call close, right? And there we go. So we should probably test this to see if it actually works. So there is the program modified with the save points file and with an actual call to save points. And for now, let's just test and see if it works when we exit. So let me bring these to Mu and this to Mu as well. And then let me try and run it. I need to call main. So enter points file name. Do we have, I think we probably have one from the previous video. So I'll say points.text, and let's say, what's the command? You know what we should probably do? Let's add, because if I could say Booker2 or add Booker2, and then if I say exit, enter points file name. Okay, so let's say points.txt. So we'll overwrite points.txt. And so clearly it was able to load some information from points.txt because I only said add Booker 2, and there's all these other scores stored in there. But now the question is, if I reload points.txt, will it actually save that updated information? So let's run it again and say points.txt. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Points.txt. And then I will say add Booker 3, add Booker 2, add Booker 2, add Booker 2, and let's say add James 3. So a few adds, and then let me type exit, and we'll save it again in points.txt. And let's see, so we added a couple of points, right? And it actually, let's see, I must have spelled Booker wrong on one of those, or with a lowercase b. So we have that. So let me now just load up points.txt, and then let me type exit, and we'll say save it to points2.txt. So, it does look like it saved the point information from that previous run, right? I don't remember if that actually is showing exactly the same thing as what we just ran, so let me do a better test than this. What I think would actually be helpful is if I added a command to help me test. So let me say elif command type, if it equals scores, let's have that be a special command that just shows the scores. And then let's also have a save function. So if I say save, we'll actually get rid of it in the exit function. So we'll actually, let's do this, that'd be kind of cool. If we create both a save and a load feature, then we can basically save and load whenever we want to instead of having to do it when it starts up. So there we go. So let's try this, right? Let me say Booker 2, James, add Booker 2, add James 2, and then if I say, what? What did it do? All right, restart. Add Booker 2, add James 2. Now if I say scores, it shows, all right, we have those scores. Cool. So let me say save, and I will say points.txt, and then we'll exit. All right, so presumably right now points.txt should have Booker and James both having it too. So let me restart, and let's load. Wait. Oh, I need to load points.txt, and then let's say scores, and it was able to load that data in. And so if I say add Booker 3, whoops, add Booker 3, add Booker 2, scores, and I will say save, points.that, and then we can exit. And let's run it one more time and make sure if I say load, points.txt, and then scores, it does indeed load those scores. So it seems like saving and loading is working well. Now, one thing to consider is, let's say we were thinking about the scenario of the program crashing, right? What if at halftime the program crashes? Well, if that were the case, it might be good for us to have some kind of autosave feature. Like after you change the score of a player, what if it automatically saved for you in case you forgot to actually type out the save command before halftime rolled around? So what we could do for this is we could modify the way our code works, and we could change the save points file function to not ask for the name of the file, but have a third parameter, which is file name. So when I call explicitly the save command, I will go ahead and I'll ask the user for the name of a file beforehand, and then I will pass that in. But we also want to autosave every time, let's say, we add a new score for a player. So what I'm going to do is in my add command, I am going to add a call to this, but I'm going to have it save to a default file name of autosave.txt. And so that will just be the autosave location in case my program crashes. Let's spell that right. Auto. So let's try to run this. Let's start a new game, and let's say Booker scores 2. Oops, add Booker 2, add Ayton 2, add if only I could spell. I'll try spelling on for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know if I'm spelling that right. I think that's close. For Giannis Antetokounmpo, let's say he scores a 3 and add Booker 2. So if I say scores, that's what the scores look like. So let me try to just say, for example, let's simulate a crash, right? I'll just hit the stop button. Oh no, it crashed. But let's see if I can hit run, and if I can say scores. Of course, it doesn't remember right now live in our program, but if I load from autosave.text, wait. Oh shoot, did I mess something up? Oh, okay. Load. Oh, okay, so right, I need to say load, and then I need to say autosave.text. Now, if I say scores, it was able to load data from that autosave file. So that's kind of a cool feature, and you may want to keep that in mind in case in the future you write a program and you maybe want to give the user the option to save, but you also want to autosave, for example, the user's progress in a video game or something like that, right? So anyway, that's a kind of a cool feature. So now we have a much more feature-rich version of the Scorekeeper code than we did a few videos back, which is kind of cool, right? You learn new things about Python, and then you can add more features to code that you've already written. So maybe you could think about, if you have some extra time, ways that you could go back to some of your old coding assignments and add some features that are based on kind of new concepts that you've learned. So for example, what would be a good one? Maybe something like the finance program, right? Remember the Where's the Money program? Well, maybe you could have some kind of feature that allows your code to actually remember, let's say year to year. Well, how much did you spend in 2018, in 2019, and then 2020 and 2021, and be able to save that data, and then you can load it back up and compare how much you made from one year to the next, or how much you spent on travel one year to the next, and so on and so forth. So just kind of think about that, right? And if you have some extra time and if you want some extra ways to practice, that's something that you can do, is you can go back to old code that you've written and see if you've learned new things since that time that you can take and apply and improve that code. So anyway, I hope that this was helpful. Hopefully it's a cool example, and I will talk to you in the next video.